the best idea, the best message to give to anybody who is looking for an internship is that if you are undecided, that's great. I am still. So that's the best suggestion that I can give you. And doing an internship might help to actually make a decision.
Hello and welcome to PhD Talk Show. I am Virender Singh, and today we'll be talking about importance of internships in career decisions. Today we have with us Dr. Shayandev Sinha, who works at Intel. So Dr. Sinha, could you briefly tell us about what you do and importance of internships in your career decision?
Okay. So I work at Intel. I am an engineer in the technology development group, which is well known to produce newer technologies in the world. So the main aspect or the main idea of technology development group at Intel is to produce newer semiconductor nodes as we progress on. So all those things that you might have heard of called 3 nanometer node, 2 nanometer node, and even beyond. Those kind of technologies are what is going on inside Intel. And about 2 years back, Intel published a technology called PowerVia, and I have been working on it for quite some time now. That is kind of the thing I do. And to talk about internships, from my own experience and from from various other people I have interacted with, it plays a very central role in deciding or thinking about a person's career. And it is actually a way to try out something, not to do the entire thing, but of course to try out something and to see whether you commit to it for a long term, or whether that is not something that you would do for the entire life, right? It is better to do it for 2 months and then make a decision than signing up and doing it for 3 years and not getting anything out of it. So that is kind of the central view about internship.
Oh, that's great. So as you mentioned, it is something like you wanted to try out before you actually decide whether you want to move to that field or not. Uh, since you have switched different fields, like your graduation was in different field, then you moved to a different field in PhD, and I think now in industry you are slightly working on different aspects. So do you think like internships played some role in like moving to different fields?
So okay, so this is the thing. So um yes, changing fields. So back when I was in IIT Kanpur, I was a mechanical engineering student, and at the end of my third year, I did an internship with a company called Triadiagonal Solutions in Pune, for about 2.5 months. They are a CFD oriented company, computational fluid dynamics oriented company. Um, that was an amazing time to spend in Pune in the summers, and actually to work on a very interesting project there. Now, what I did there did actually give me a test of fluid mechanics, the topic I was not very interested before. I was interested in mechanics long before, but then in my first year, second year, taking courses which were not related to core mechanical engineering kind of diverted my ideology, and I was trying to think about different career um, thoughts. But luckily, that internship actually brought me back on track. And when I came back, the first thing I did was to convert my degree from a bachelor's to a bachelor's master's at IIT Kanpur. So that was a big change because I definitely understood that I do want to do research. I do not want to become like a daily 9 to 5 person at a company. That is not my cup of tea. I realized that. I realized that there are certain parts of it I extremely enjoy. And if there's a new problem, I like to tackle it. So I discovered certain characteristics of mine, not by studying in a university, but sitting in an office in Pune. So that was a big change. So you can see the immediate effects. I converted my degree from a bachelor's to a bachelor's master's, stayed there, chose a supervisor, worked on solid mechanics problems. And then during my PhD, I actually moved to fluid mechanics, which I did during the internship. And I spent my entire PhD on fluids, my entire post-PhD fellowship time at Harvard also on fluids. And I joined Intel actually to look into such kind of interesting problems. I mean, my interview actually was in that direction. So if you think like that, that internship seeded something in me. I had already taken a fluid mechanics course in my fourth semester at IIT Kanpur, which I did not like. But the internship made such an impact in my life that I eventually became a full-scale fluid mechanist. So you can see that it definitely changes. I did not do an internship during my PhD, but during my PhD, I extremely collaborated with a lot of industries, and actually some of my work have been transferred, what they call a technology transfer from an university to the industry for use. I actually worked heavily on something in additive manufacturing into an initiative called Next Generation of Flexible Electronics with partners in GE, Lockheed Martin, and a couple of other, and Optomec mainly as the partner for the 3D printing machines. Although I did not do an internship, I heavily collaborated with industrial work, and that set a footing path in that. The idea that I generated during my PhD actually inspired me to think about a startup. And that is one of the central reasons of moving to Boston area to actually explore that dynamic along with my position at Harvard. So during my time, which was also not very long in the Boston area, I heavily tried to see how to work on a startup and things like that. And luckily met with a person with whom we did some work, not for my own, but some another startup on the side. So yes, so I have for a long time kept in touch with industry and have worked with it, and they have definitely changed the way I think about things. If you look in the world of research also, particularly in the topic in which I have my very good papers, physical review letters or PNS, they're all on Marangani flows. Classically, the semiconductor industry have paid the bills for Marangani flow researchers. There is a very famous PRL paper in 2008 or 7, I think it was written by people from Lam Research on Marangani flows. People usually don't write those papers or don't find such papers. So it's not that, that the moral of the story is this: it is better to do it for a couple of months to actually figure out. For me, I did not join that company. I did not go for what they call a pre-placement offer, or you have an offer, or the internship becoming a full-time job offer. That did not, I mean, that was not a phenomenon happening for me because I was inspired to do a master's. But what was true is that I did get time to think about myself.
Oh, that's great. Like it seems like internship has opened a different door for you.
Not different. Yeah, so that's the thing, that many people say that, oh, the internship is a way to change your field. No, I didn't change my field. I actually explored a new way of looking at my own career, and also I explored like, what am I good at actually, what do I like.
Oh, yeah, that's nice. Nice way to put in different words. Uh, so you mentioned that you have not done internship during your PhD, but you collaborated with industry. I think it's another way of internship, like to collaborate, so that you are not just doing what you are doing for your PhD, but you are exploring different options with your collaborators, and that in turn, like help you explore different areas which might be of your interest. In your case, you even like collaborated with startups. You might be interested in startups at some point, or maybe not, depending on your experience. But what I wanted to know is, when you applied for internship, what was the process?
Oh, so usually it's very interesting. India versus United States, IIT versus United States is a very different domain. From an Indian perspective, usually there is a placement office in the IITs, which are very good at bringing the companies and where you interact with them, and that's how you do the application. And obviously, there are some interviews. Sometimes they're on the phone. I think many of them used to use Skype in those days. I think now we have much more versions of online interviews, and then it used to be that used to be the selection process. I think if you are participating in some programming companies, usually they look for a programming test, right? Many companies do a programming test, and some people do a basic test even. In US, it's a very different situation. You usually go to career fair. Many people go to their university career fairs to actually find out internships. Yeah, that is one way. Number two is, you have a company in mind, you want to do internships, you actually go to LinkedIn, and they would usually publish if they're taking internships in that domain every year. And usually I have always seen that before the summer, many companies will actually post a lot of internship opportunities on their webpage and on their LinkedIn job postings to apply for. And they would very clearly give the requirements of the profile that they're looking for. Like very recently, just I was on LinkedIn, and I found a very interesting internship from World Bank, who are looking for PhD students actually, and it's a data oriented role. And I said, hey, if I was a PhD student, I might have applied for that. Sounds cool. So the thing is that that's the thing, right? That's how you get. And I was in the Washington DC area. I used to see a lot of the humanities students getting interested into this whole diaspora of NGOs and other kind of work that was there in that area. And a lot of other students used to do a lot of internships. For PhDs in the US, there are extreme amount of research oriented internships available in the national labs. One thing that many people try to explore, and many people are still trying to explore, Oak Ridge offers significant opportunities, Brookhaven, Argonne, and even Lawrence, Berkeley, and Livermore, as far as I know. If you know the right person, then there are very nice opportunities through those organizations to find out an internship, and which can actually end up being a long-term thing even after you finish your PhD. National labs are a very different taste of career in between industry and academics, which some of you might be very much interested in exploring.
Thanks a lot for sharing different options one could explore. Uh, Now, since you have moved to industry, now you are in a different role. So, what do you think could be a recruiter perspective or an industry perspective when they are hiring interns, or how they set up the program for training of internship or like interns?
True. So usually what happens is that now, given that this is a PhD level talk show, I would say that usually, see, the largest amount of intern in tech happens in the bachelor's level. For MS and PhD, the numbers are lower than a bachelor's level student. That is first and foremost, if you go by sheer numbers or by some analytical numbers. So for PhD level, internships are lower in number available, but of course, number of PhD students are also lower, so you can take them to be proportional. It is very common in certain fields to do internships, particularly the field of computer science and maybe electrical engineering. It is extremely popular in their domains to do it. In certain other domains of engineering and basic sciences, it is actually unpopular, and you would find very few people doing it. So the first thing in those cases is to figure out which company is suitable for your choice, and then go for that and go for the interview. From our employer's perspective, we are just looking for a good person, right? We are looking for a person who is personable. See, you are looking for an intern. We are not looking for a full-time employee. So you already know that you are not going to commit to drinking coffee with this person for the next 10 years of your life in the morning. So you are looking for a person that you might have to drink coffee for the next 3 months of your life. So as a result of that, you are just not looking for a person who like being like a perfect match or a perfect skill set. You're just looking for a a nice person to interact with, who is interested in learning, and you want to see their their acumen for learning new things, and you also want to see whether they're a fast learner, because if they can, usually in an internship, the learning process or the learning curve is long enough so that the executable results are not achieved in that short timeline. So people just learn. You want somebody who is a quick learner, because then you can get an executable result at the end, which is our perspective for paying that candidate. So a first learner is something that is an extremely important thing that people are looking during the interview that they're conducting. And after that, if you produce an executable result, then depending upon economic situations and the future, that might result into a full-time offer in the later period. That is usually how this thing functions. It's the same for this journey from intern to a full-time offer, which happens at a much later part, is completely on the hands of your interaction, your personal interaction with your mentor or your manager and your teammates, and how much fun you had and how much fun they had with you. So that is the thing. It's not always about the outstanding scientific skill sets. It's also about your communication skill set, and also how do you interact with people. We are social human beings, and interns are also expected to be a colleague rather than a student.
I think sounds good. And what could I interpret from this is like internship is like a Tinder date, which could end up in marriage or might not end up in marriage.
uh, uh, the Tinder date is a 3 hour phenomena. Usually people stay for 3 months. So it's a very long Tinder date. You might have to make a new app for that. But, or maybe we already have one called LinkedIn. But the main thing is that, yes, it might not end up being a full-time offer in the long run. But what it can do for you is it can give you an opportunity to say and think whether you want to do this or not. Very recently, I was at Materials Research Society meeting in Boston, and we were hearing a talk about career by a new assistant professor called Gina Ko in UPenn. And she said she did an internship at Verily, which is a Google company, for 3 months during her PhD. And she did not want to do it again, although they were interested in her, because she found that these people are very happy. She found people at Verily are too happy, and she wanted like to be unhappy and doing something very toiling. So she decided not to take that. So somebody has a very different career choice or a life choice. They want to be toiling. They don't want to be very happy. She found people too happy and did not continue with them. So that's an interesting story, and that's a very different perspective of looking at life.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing this interesting story. So, one thing which I wanted to know about is what you think about remote internships. Like, it's not possible for all the fields, but at least for computer science related fields, many people do remote internships. So, how important they are, or like how helpful they are?
See, during the pandemic taught us something very interesting, right? It's not going to, and we have to prepare for this, right? It's not going to be like the old one. We do not know what is the new. We will be in the world of the messy middle, right? And we will figure out the messy middle. The messy middle includes people going with masks and gloves probably for the rest of their lives into some place, and some people sitting at home and not meeting anybody forever in their lives, right? That is a significant possibility. In that way, yes, there will be people who will be doing internships from a very long distance, and go on with that. That is what is going to happen.
Thank you so much for sharing great insights. So, before we wrap up, one last message for people who are looking for internships.
So the best idea, the best message to give to anybody who is looking for an internship is that if you are undecided, that's great. I am still. So that's the best suggestion that I can give you. And doing an internship might help to actually make a decision.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's great advice for all the listeners or all the students who are looking for internships. And do check out LinkedIn if you are looking for internships. Thanks a lot, Dr. Sinha, for sharing your thoughts on internships and how it helped you in finding working in a field which now is of your interest and you enjoy doing.
Thank you.